ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Saints, Seahawks, the perfect fitting end to what was a sloppy weekend of football that was weather impacted. That was, I don't know if we really had a great game this weekend. As I played the slate of games back in my head, I don't think, other than Dolphins-Falcons, was there a close game that came down to the wire and a last-second score, field goal, touchdown, whatever the case may be. There wasn't a lot of dramatics this week in the NFL. And I think this was the first week I can honestly say that. All of the football games on primetime were close. They just were all bad. and we knew this was going to happen. We didn't know the weather was going to be such an impact on the last two primetime games. But we said all of the games that were on primetime this week were going to be matchups that really wouldn't move the needle. The game itself was going to have to overcome the thoughts of these are going to be bad matchups to watch going into it. The anticipation for these games were low, and the play on the field was going to have to supersede the lack of expectations for the games to live up to. And none of them really did anything to change what was the perception going in, which were three really ho-hum games, not really interested. And all of them were close, as I mentioned. All of them one-score games. All of them, well, with the exception of the Colts game, that was close until the touchdown late. But these were competitive games. They just weren't games that were all that thrilling to watch. Thank God for Eli and Peyton Manning today, or else I don't know how I would have gotten through this game, maybe a nap or two. But that said, Saints get the win 13-10. Again, much like last night's game, weather impacted. Rain was just coming down in buckets. You're more accustomed to seeing that in Seattle. Maybe not that heavy of a rainfall for that consistent of a period of time throughout the game. You know, in Seattle, you'll get, maybe a downpour for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then it's just steady, drizzle, coming down, a mist, if you will. It was just like last night's game where it's just coming down. It's amazing, though, with these cameras. You can hardly tell it's raining on the field. Again, you can't really tell until you get to an area where the background and the backdrop is a little bit different, or there's something there that's showing you just how hard it's raining. You really don't see it on the field. It's amazing. So with that said, man, these were two awful offenses tonight. Now, the Saints are actually really good defensively, and, you got to give them credit. They've got a really good defensive unit. They're coached well by Dennis Allen. And so not really shocked that they held the Seahawks to 10 points. But the Seahawks offense is pretty bad, and it wasn't all that great before Russell Wilson got hurt. So it's not like all of a sudden, Russ goes out and now the offense can't move the football. They've been struggling really for the better part of the last maybe 4 weeks. They were good early in the season, but they haven't been all that great, the last month or so. And Russ got hurt like, what was it now, 3 weeks ago in the game. So he's been out the last two games, and he missed the second half of the Rams game. So I don't really know if that's, the byproduct of Russ not playing. Obviously, they'd be better, you would think. It's just hard for me to understand how DK Metcalf can have an 84-yard catch on the second possession of the game and not eclipse 100 yards. Someone explain how your best receiver has an 84-yard touchdown grab with about 7 minutes left in the first quarter and doesn't eclipse 100 yards receiving in the game. When you're struggling and your quarterback's Geno Smith, how about you just get it to your best player? It's not rocket science, okay? These are the things I don't understand with teams. You know, for years, I would be upset about Washington sometimes. We haven't had any dominant playmakers that you have to get the football to, but when we have and we don't, it's a problem for me because this game isn't hard. I think people make it harder than it has to be. You have players that the other team stays up late at night to try and game plan to stop. Your job as a coordinator or a coach is to make sure that no matter what that team does defensively, schematically, that guy still gets enough touches to have an impact on the game. Maybe the things that you normally do with that guy won't work. Well, then you get creative. And even if it's got to be a jet sweep or a wide receiver screen, or you got to get blockers out in front and you throw, something where guys go up the field, it's a couple of, slants and he's running to the flats or I don't give a shit, honestly. I've got a guy like DK Metcalf. There's no way he's going to end up with 2 catches for 96 yards and one of them is an 84-yard touchdown. That happened in the first quarter. It's just not happening. Not when I have 10 points and I'm struggling offensively. Not when Alex Collins is getting tackled in the backfield over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not happening. It's not hard for Tyler Lockett to catch a wide receiver screen. It's not hard for you to run a couple of rub routes to get Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf the football. I don't understand how you go 4 quarters and your best players essentially don't touch the football and you score 10 points. I don't give a shit what the weather is. That's problematic for me. You deserve to lose the football game. For the Saints, it's Jameis Winston is still Jameis Winston, okay? He had some drops tonight. It's when weather is like this, I'm a little bit more lenient on the receivers, but there were drops tonight. But there are also some misses. That tight end screened at the end of the game. You can't miss that if you're James. What the hell is he doing? It's almost as if he didn't know there was a tight end screen called on the play or something. It's almost like he was trying to work the other side of the field and the Seahawks took it away. And now he's like, got to figure something out. Bro, it's a screen. Your guys are going to release and get out into the flats. Guys are going to be coming after you. Why are you running forward? I don't understand what you're doing right now. Get depth, back up, and then toss it over their heads. Get it to your tight end, Juwan Johnson. He walks into the end zone. It's the most crucial, critical play of the game. What are you doing? Unbelievable. And luckily they won the game. But I don't want to hear, I effed up. No, I know you effed up, and you could have cost your team. What if this guy that's in his first career NFL game does what the Seahawks kicker does and goes out there and chokes from 33 yards out? That's on you. That's a walk-in touchdown, bro. Unreal. Unbelievable. That said, the Saints did enough to win this game. It wasn't pretty. I don't believe in either one of these teams. I don't believe in the Saints. I've said that. They're going to get guys back. I don't care. It's hard for me to fathom them being really good with Jameis Winston at quarterback. And it's not like Jameis is terrible. He just has brain farts and makes poor decisions at the worst times. And that play tonight is a microcosm of Jameis Winston in a nutshell. The game is on the line. I need your best from you. This is the biggest play of the game. It's 10-10. It's 3rd and goal from the 6-yard line. I need your best. And he gives me his worst. What are we doing, man? I mean, and to make matters worse, they call the screen and he actually runs into the pressure and takes the sack. I don't know, man. I can't do this with Jameis. I can't do it. Both of these quarterbacks were awful tonight, both of them. But the biggest difference was Geno turned it over. I think Geno turned it over. Did Geno turn it over? I think Geno had a pick. Maybe Geno didn't have a pick. See if Geno had a pick. No, Geno didn't have a pick. The biggest difference in the game was the Seattle Seahawks kicker missed 2 field goals. That's number one. And when plays had to be made, the Saints didn't necessarily make them as much as they just didn't stop Seattle from allowing them to make them, if that makes any sense. A wise man once told me more games in the NFL are lost than they are won. This was one of those games because you get 2 missed field goals by the Seahawks. You get an offsides penalty on Al Woods, which is just utterly ridiculous. Again, just like when the Giants jumps to offsides against Washington in week 2 with their defensive tackle. I just have one question. What are you doing? What are you going to do to impact this field goal attempt? 9 times out of 10, if a field goal is blocked, it's not going to be by a 320-pound, in Al Woods' case, a 350, 60-pound defensive tackle. Now, I saw Tim Settle for the Washington football team block a kick yesterday, but, that's rare, okay? That's not the norm, okay? That's the exception to the rule. Generally speaking, Dexter Lawrence isn't blocking a field goal, and neither is Al Woods. So where the hell are you going? I don't know. Don't ask me. I can't tell you. But those 5 yards proved to be huge because, again, this guy's first NFL game, the kind of pressure he would have been under on a 47-yarder in those conditions, not to say that he was going to miss, but it's a lot harder to kick from 47 in those conditions than it is 33. That's for damn sure. And then Geno Smith at the end. Bro, you can't take 2 sacks. 1 is bad enough. You can't take a second sack. What are we doing, guys? Seriously, what are we doing? That's why he's Geno. Oh, Geno. Oh, no. That's Geno. Oh, no, at his finest. Right there. Game on the line. And you say, all right, Geno. Birdman hand rub. What you got for me, man? This is your opportunity. This is your chance. You've been waiting. Here's your chance. And for the second time on prime time, he's had a chance, and it's gone awry. The first time, cut him a break. His receiver falls down. It's not his fault. He gets sacked twice. I got no words, man. None. Ballsy calls, too, by Saints defensive coordinator. I forgot his damn name. Dennis Allen, DA. Aggressive play calls by DA. Say, you know what? Geno Smith stinks. I'm coming after him. I'm not going to sit back and let him be comfortable and find somebody. We'll come after his ass, see what he does. The answer is nothing. The answer is nothing. So the Seahawks essentially gave the Saints this game. I haven't been impressed with the Saints since week 1 when they demolished Green Bay. Since then, they've been an average team. They're one of the fraudulent 4-win teams right now in the league. They're sitting at 4-2, and they want to be in the conversation with Dallas and Seattle, with the Rams and Arizona and Green Bay. They want to be in that conversation, and Tampa Bay. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, you're not. And I think we're going to find that out next week when they play Tampa Bay, because I think they're going to get their doors absolutely blown the hell off. We'll see. I could be wrong. It's family business. You know how that goes. NFL is a week-to-week league. They could go and play Tampa next week and hang tough with them and have a chance late. Not necessarily win it, but be a lot more competitive than I think. That defense is good enough to give them a chance, but I just don't think they're a very good football team. But yet they sit there at 4-2. They sit there at 4-2. So, you are what your record says you are. They're 4-2. I'm going to respect it, but I don't fear it. But again, you don't have to fear it. It is what it is. So that's a good win for them on the road, though. It's ugly. Nobody cares. 2 weeks from now, no one's going to care that it was a 13-10 win in terrible conditions on the road. They're just going to say, hey, you won. That's another one in the left-hand column. That's all anybody will care about. So, big win for the Saints. Got a super chat here. This one is from Lurtz of Orthanic. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how does Seattle at 2-5 affect the NFC wildcard chase? It affects it tremendously because they're not out of it. They got Jacksonville. They should be able to win that game, but look, if they play like this, they're not beating anybody. They're not beating Jacksonville like this either. So Jacksonville's coming off of a bye week. They're coming off of their first win. They're feeling good. They're confident. They don't get their shit together. If Geno Smith comes out there and plays like ass, they'll lose to Jacksonville next week. And keep in mind, this Seattle Seahawks defense stinks. They were one of the worst scoring defenses in football just 2 weeks ago. And the weather really impacted this game. And last week, the Steelers are one of the worst offensive teams in terms of scoring the football in the league. So they caught a break last week as well. But this is a team that before the Steelers game a week ago, they were one of the worst scoring defenses in football. So it wouldn't shock me if Jacksonville put up 27 or 30 on these chumps and beat them next week. But it affects the wild card chase because I don't know how they're going to react. But they still play teams that are going to be vying for wild card positioning down the stretch. Teams that think they can get back in it. Seattle's on the schedule for them, a lot of these teams. You know, whether it's in that division because somebody's not winning the NFC West, right? Seattle's played Arizona no times. They've got them twice still, and they've played the Rams once. So they still have something to say about who's going to win that division. So that's one. They're going to affect one of those wild card teams right there. I know for a fact they play some other teams that are going to think they're in it. They may not actually be in it, like Washington, for instance. But they play other teams that think they're going to be in it down the stretch. So we'll see what happens with Seattle. They could themselves get back in it. I mean, a win over Jacksonville, you go to your bye, you get Russell Wilson back, and they could get hot. Again, I've talked about the NFC wild card being wide open in terms of spots 6 and 7. Even though the Saints right now are like, hey, ho. 6 is ours. You can talk all you want about 7. We're going to go ahead and get 6. I'm not too sure about that. I don't love the Saints right now, but 6 and 7 are wide open, and that includes a 2-5 Seattle team. You know, are they going to quit or are they going to keep fighting? And when Russ comes back, are they ready to hit the ground running? That's the question. But Seattle at 2-5, they're still dangerous because they still got a top, 5 quarterback in the league waiting to come off of injury to come back and potentially give them an opportunity to get hot, win 7 out of their final 8. And next thing you know, you look up, they're a 9-win team and they're in the playoffs. So they're still in the mix. But the loss tonight really affected the wild card chase because this Saints team is a team you could be jockeying and vying with a playoff spot later on in the season. And now they have the head-to-head over you. You had a chance to pull them down with everybody else to 3 wins. And instead you let them catapult themselves to 4-2. So they're still going to have, some teams just like the Saints on the schedule that are going to be looking to insert themselves into the playoff conversation, and the Seahawks can have something to say about that. So we'll see what happens. Got another super chat. I think I might have missed one. I don't think I missed one. Was that? I thought, okay, yeah, that's $2 one. I see. Let me see. Maybe I'm tripping. Let me see if I can find it up here. I only see one super chat, but yet it's telling me I had 2. But okay, whatever. Let's just get to the comment section then. Young Dex. These Saints receivers have a combined 7 drops tonight. Jameis really needs Mike Thomas back. Look, when you're throwing the ball to what's my man's name? That was Kevin White. Okay. When Kevin White's one of your primary targets, you're gonna have some drops. It's Kevin White. Look, the balls that were dropped weren't like, oh my God, that's a perfect ball, and it was dropped. It was catchable, but on a night like tonight where it's tough and it's wet, I don't need to be, doing too much stretching outside of my frame or having to dive. You got to put it on the money. And Jameis wasn't doing that. Could these receivers help him out, make a great catch? Sure. That'd be awesome. But again, on a night like tonight, I don't want my receivers having to be special. That's how catastrophe strikes. When you ask a receiver on a night where it's pouring down in buckets by the bucket loads, I don't want my guys having to jump up or dive or any of that shit, because anything tips off of the hands, it could easily be picked up. I need these passes to be pinpoint accurate, and that wasn't the case tonight. But yes, he could definitely use Mike Thomas back. Storm says, perfect game to cap off week 7. Sloppy game to an otherwise mediocre week of NFL action. Not a big believer in either team, to be honest. Damn. I literally just said almost everything you just said in that comment. So I kind of think we're here. Like, seriously. This was a very, just to use your word, a very mediocre week of football. Again, I think Dolphins and Falcons were the lone really competitive game. I don't recall any other game really coming down to the wire. I watched all 6 first half games at 1:00, and the Falcons and the Dolphins were the only one. The Ravens got their asses kicked. Washington lost by 2 scores. The Giants beat the Panthers soundly in that game. The Patriots utterly destroyed the Jets, so much so that they went and traded for Joe Flacco today. And I think it was one more game. And the Titans absolutely embarrassed the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, those were the 6 games at 1:00. And then after I was done my Washington show, I check on the scores, and it's 3 ass whoopings taking place. The Eagles are getting destroyed by the Raiders. The Buccaneers had a 35-3 lead at halftime over the Bears, and the Cardinals were up 31-5. Like at one point, there were none of the games were competitive at all. And then, as I mentioned, the primetime games were all snoozers, but they were all competitive. They just were, games that didn't really move the needle. So, yeah, it was a mediocre week of football. I've got to piggyback off of that. It was a mediocre week. This game was the perfect way to end it off because, like last night, the weather was very, very dreadful and wet. And I like you. I don't believe in either one of these teams. Whether Russell Wilson is healthy or not, I don't believe in the Seahawks. And I don't believe in this Saints team. I believe in their defense. I don't believe in their offense. So maybe that changes when they get Michael Thomas back. Maybe that properly slots all of these receivers, and they get Taysom Hill back, and they get, the speedster Deontay Harris back, and all of a sudden this offense is booming. But right now, it doesn't move the needle for me at all. Niners fan says, Marshawn Lattimore gets beat so much, he's really inconsistent. He's a dog, though. Like, I love Marshawn Lattimore. Yeah, you can beat him from time to time, but he's got the kind of memory that you need in a cornerback, which is, selective memory. Like, okay, you got me last time, do that shit again. He's right back in your face. He's deleting the airspace, and he's begging for more. And if you got more and you're going to give him more, then it is what it is, but he's not afraid. And he's going to make his fair share of plays, and you may make your play here or there, but he's a dog. I'd take him 10 times out of 10. You can call him inconsistent all you want. He's still one of the best corners in football. Every now and again, you're going to get him. Yeah, absolutely. He can be beaten. I'm not going to sit here and say he can't. But he's a dog. And he's got a dog mentality. And he wants the other team's best receiver. And he wants to go with him in the slot. He wants to go with him as an X, as a Z. He doesn't really care where that guy is. He's looking to travel with him. He's a star corner in this league and a damn good one. I take Marshawn Lattimore on my team any day. Niners fan writes, Dennis Allen is awesome. He should get another shot as a coach eventually. So let me pause and get you to pump your brakes and drive slow, homie. Drive slow real quick on Dennis Allen. Here's the thing. Just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you're a great head coach. The two are mutually exclusive, and one doesn't mean that you are good at the other, okay? He is a diabolical defensive mind. You know, he's a guy that is cut from that Greg Williams cloth, where he's aggressive and he's going to come after you and he's going to give you multiple looks, which is why the Saints defensively are so good. You give him a corner like Marshawn Lattimore and he can do some really nasty things. And now that they've actually got a guy on the other side in Paulson Adebo that can also, man up corners, receivers and run with them with some length, I think he feels like, man, I can do whatever the hell I want to do now. And they got a safety back there and Marcus Williams, that has range and can make plays on the football. So he can be even more aggressive now. And you're seeing that. And I don't know if Dennis Allen is head coaching material or not. He had a chance with the Raiders. I think there was one or two good seasons in there, or maybe just one, I think. I don't think there were two. But for the most part, he stunk as a head coach. So just because you stunk once doesn't mean you would stink again. And there are things that you probably did and didn't do well the first time that you say, if I get another chance, I'm going to make sure I do it differently the second time around. He may get another shot, but he's been a D coordinator for a while now, and he's been pretty good for a while now, and his name never comes up. So I don't know if he's going to get another sniff or not. It's in this day and age in the NFL, I'll just tell you this. The day and age of defensive coordinators getting jobs readily is slim and none. You got to be a hot defensive coordinator and have never been a head coach before. Like retread defensive coordinator coaches aren't getting jobs in this league. They much rather go with the young upstart offensive-minded, coach, whether he was a quarterback's coach or first-year play caller, knocked it out of the park. Let's give him a shot. Like the Zach Taylors and the Sean McVays and the Matt LaFleurs of the world, Kevin Stefanski. These are the guys that are getting jobs. That's what the league is looking for. Young, offensive-minded head coach. Arthur Smith is getting a job. They're not looking for the Vic Fangios. Even though Vic was a first-time head coach, they're not looking for defensive coaches. Robert Saleh got the job after being dominant in San Francisco for many, many years, like 3 years. You thought he was getting a job after the Super Bowl run, didn't get a job. All right. Finally got the job after last year, and he's struggling. So, it's not looking good for the defensive guys. That's for sure. We'll see what happens with Dennis Allen. I don't see him getting a job, but you never know. Niners fan also writes, Geno takes more deep shots than Jimmy. Damn, our QB situation stinks. Is that a prerequisite for being good, taking deep shots? I mean, I don't think that it really matters. There's no correlation to being good and taking shots down the field. Rex Grossman used to throw the football down the field all the time. Did that make him a good quarterback? No. It doesn't matter that, it's what you do with your opportunities that count. You can throw the ball deep 12 times in a game. If you're 0 for 12, who gives a shit? Did Geno hit any of them other than the DK Metcalf one down the sideline? Did he hit anything down the field? At the end of the day, the offense that you guys run in San Francisco isn't supposed to be predicated on a bunch of deep shots. If those opportunities present itself, you take it. But go watch the Rams offense with Sean McVay. That's what the offense is supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like run the football, set up play action fake, use those linebackers, force them to play the run, and high-low read the hell out of the linebackers. That's what you're looking to do. Stress those linebackers, high-low read them. If they choose the low read, you go high. If they choose the high read, you go low. The Rams, how often do the Rams take shots 40, 50 yards down the field? They really don't. They got Deshaun Jackson for that this year. But let's be honest. How many times does Cooper Kupp catch a pass from 15 to 22 yards? About 6 or 7 of them a game. Same with Robert Woods. And then when it's not one of those, after they play action faked you to death and got that linebacker to suck up, and then there's this big gaping hole behind the linebacker in between the safety where Cooper Kupp is seemingly running with no one around him for 6 yards in any direction, then they throw a wide receiver screen. That's what your offense is supposed to look like. There's not a lot of deep shots in that offense. You're supposed to get chunk plays. 15 here, 18 here, 4-yard run, 6-yard run, 2-yard run, 9-yard run, 26-yard run. Now here comes some play action fake. 18-yard chunk play, 22-yard chunk play, 4 yards, 2-yard run, 6-yard run, 1-yard run, 18-yard run, 14-yard chunk play. That's what your offense is supposed to look like. And every now and again, you'll get the 55-yard quick touchdown strike. But that's not what your offense is supposed to be. Hank Midas. Maybe Geno is not ready for prime time. Also, this week's primetime games were duds. Yes, they were. But we kind of projected that. Now, you know what's funny is last year, every time I would say, oh, man, this game's going to be awful. Turned out to be good. I was hoping to use that Jedi mind trick on these games this week. It did not work. It did not work. They all were, again, they were all competitive. All one-score games late. The Colts game ultimately, with that last touchdown, got out of hand and was a 12-point game. But all of these games were competitive. They just weren't fun games to watch. And Geno isn't ready for prime time. But we already knew that. Young Deck says, Marshawn gave up 2 catches all day. How is he inconsistent? So Marshawn can be inconsistent. Marshawn can, first of all, Marshawn's a dog. Marshawn is a head case. Okay. You can get in his head. You can get him to do something stupid that's going to cost his team 15 yards. That said, you can complete passes on Marshawn Lattimore, right? You can get some passes on him. And I think that's what he's talking about. When you think of shutdown corners, you're thinking of Stephon Gilmore. You're thinking about some of these guys that just don't, Jalen Ramsey, these guys that just don't give it up at all, really. You might get them every now and again, but they don't give it up. You can get some stuff on Marshawn Lattimore, but he's going to make his fair share of plays. And like I said, he's a dog. I'd take him 10 times out of 10. He's one of the preeminent corners in the league. And for me, I would say that if we're ranking corners in the league, he's probably a top 5 corner. If we're compiling a list of corners, it'd be hard for me to come up with, 5 guys that are better than him. He'd probably be in my top 5. He's that good. Again, DK had the 84-yarder on him. What did he do after that? That's what you got to ask yourself. Man didn't have 100 yards in the game. Now, to me, that's a problem with Shane Waldron. That's a problem with Geno Smith because my guy's going to have more opportunities. How many targets did he have? I know he had 2 for 96. Let me see how many targets he had. 5 targets. Let me just say this. Freddie Swain can't have more targets than DK Metcalf. End of discussion. I'm going to just leave it at that. Derek B, thank you for the super chat, or thank you for the comment. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Derek B writes, dumb 99 Woods with 2 of the stupidest offsides penalties to start and end the game. The one to start the game, it is what it is. It's not, you don't want that. That's ridiculous. But the one to end the game, that's a crucial one because, again, you want that game pressure on that kicker. You want that thing from 47 yards out. You want to see if he can make that kick. I think it was going to be 47. It might have been 44 or something. Whatever it was in the 40s. That's what you want. Make this young fellow who's never kicked in an NFL game make this longer kick. Don't let him kick an extra point. You just hate to see guys not using their brains. And that's a brain fart when you jump off sides in that situation. Watch the ball. What are you doing? Watch the ball. Derek B also says Geno doesn't have the mental toughness to play quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if that's true or not. I just know when some guys, when the pressure's on, they fold. That's not when they're at their best. Geno Smith is one of those guys that when the pressure's on, he's not at his best. So, Hank Midas writes, Seattle needs a total overhaul. They are nothing without Russ. But, I mean, we can say that about any team that has a top 10 quarterback for the most part, top 7 quarterback. Look at the Houston Texans. They have essentially fallen apart without, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he played last year and they weren't very good, but, I mean, they're terrible now, right? Green Bay, the years where Aaron Rodgers got hurt, they didn't make the playoffs in any of those years. Like, it's not rocket science, man. When you've got one of those types of quarterbacks, you're able to get away with things that teams who don't have that kind of guy aren't able to get away with. So the Seattle Seahawks are no different. We've said, like, in the offseason when they were having this back and forth with Russ, and he said, hey, I don't want to be traded. I'm not demanding to be traded, but if you're going to trade me, here are my, 5 destinations I would like to go to. I said the Seahawks would be stupid because if Pete Carroll likes his job and wants to be able to call it quits on his terms, you find a way to make Russell Wilson happy and you keep him in Seattle as long as you're there. If you want to end up getting fired and have you and John Schneider be out of there in no time, move on from Russell Wilson. Try and do this on your own. Remember what it was like. And I used to tell Cowboys fans all the time before they got Tony Romo when they would bitch and complain about Tony Romo. I said, just remember what it was like before you got Tony Romo. Just remember what it was like before you got Russell Wilson. You were about to start Matt Flynn at quarterback before you got Russell Wilson. Like, you gave Matt Flynn starters money to come be your guy, okay? It was a steady diet of Tavares Jackson and all kinds of funk and nastiness out there. They were just like everybody else, just floating around NFL mediocrity. If you don't have one of those dudes, you better have a supremely gifted roster and a guy at quarterback that's good enough. Or else, you're just a team. You're just a team. So, I don't think they need a total overhaul. When you have Russell Wilson, you don't rebuild. When you have Tom Brady, you don't rebuild. When you have Aaron Rodgers, you don't rebuild. You just reload. You retool. Each and every year, you try to figure out the things that you need to get to make you better, to get you over the hump. The guys you may need to draft for the future. Hey, got a couple of guys coming up on contracts. We're not going to be able to re-sign all of them. So that's going to be a position that we'll need to start being proactive, but you don't overhaul. You don't blow things up and rebuild when you've got Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. You just continue to build around that guy. Add the pieces that are necessary. So they're not going to blow anything up in Seattle. Derek V. Geno was bad, but the OC didn't help him. No quick game, not a single screen all game. O-line is especially bad. I think there is some validity to Shane Waldron really dropping the ball tonight. Now, again, I don't know what was called. I mean, hell, the Saints called a screen to their tight end, and Jameis Winston ran into a sack. So, I mean, we could sit here and say that the OC was terrible. We don't know what he was calling and what Geno was out there doing. But to your point, there's got to be a way you can get DK Metcalf to football. Like that's the stuff I can't stomach that shit. When I'm as a fan outside looking in, have no idea, how an offense is installed or how a game plan is put together. I don't give a shit. When you got a DK Metcalf and a Tyler Lockett on your team, All that other shit goes out the window. Let's get those guys the football. They're really good. Let's get those guys the ball. We'll figure out the rest of this shit later. Let's just make sure in a 10-10 ball game that DK Metcalf, who is the reason we have 10 points, without him, we have 3 or nothing. And Tyler Lockett, who, without Tyler Lockett, we probably don't have any wins this season. Let's get those dudes the ball. How about we not force feed Alex Collins the football and have him get tackled behind the line of scrimmage for the 9th time tonight? Let's try something different. Obviously, the Saints said, you're not running tonight. So why not do something that's an extension of the run, like a screen? Those seem to work sometimes. I don't know. Derek B also writes, I was ready to accept the loss just to avoid OT. This game was trash. You know it's bad when you're like, hey, I'll just take the L. Don't make me watch any more of this. It's bad. There have been some bad games over the years that I've watched. I've never once said, I'll take the L to avoid overtime. That's next level stuff from Derek B. I'm never willing to take a loss at any point. I don't give a shit how bad the game is. I want to win. Period. End of discussion. So the fact that you're willing to take an L tells me that this game to you was just awful and hard on your eyes. Yikes. Let's see. Derek B. Saints only had one guy on offense that could beat them, and the Seattle Seahawks acted like they never have heard of Kamara. The man had 5 catches for 108 yards at halftime. You are so right. I don't understand how that happens. You know, I don't give a shit how good Bobby Wagner is or what you think you have at linebacker. I'm not leaving Alvin Kamara one-on-one over the middle of the football field on a Texas route with my linebacker. I'm just not doing it. On that one catch and run for like 50 yards, it was one-on-one, and everybody else just cleared out. And he had all that open space with man-to-man across the board. It's the equivalent of a mobile quarterback sending all of his receivers 50 yards down the field, so everybody's back is turned down the field in man-to-man coverage, and then that mobile quarterback takes off. That's essentially what they did on that play. Is they told all their receivers, get out of the way, you run clear outs, and we're going to run Alvin over the middle of the football field on an arrow route, and we're going to get it to him. How do you allow that to happen, knowing that that's the one guy that can hurt you? You know, on the touchdown grab, how would that Jameis dropped the ball, picked it up, and there was no Seahawk defender within 7 yards of Alvin Kamara on a check down. Why and how? Both questions I need answers to. How and why? Like you said, it's almost as if they had never heard of him before. It's ridiculous. And don't sleep on Callaway either. Okay? Callaway can play some ball. The rest of those dudes, I can't vouch for them. Callaway can play some ball. Young Dex says, is it safe to say the Saints have the worst receiver room in the league? As of right now, yes. But they're going to get some guys healthy. Like Traquan Smith was back today, and you could tell he was out of sync. Him and Jameis were not on the same page. One play, the man is 15 yards down the field blocking, and Jameis throws a bullet his way, and he has no clue what the hell's going on. Zero. There's another play where Jameis is expecting him to continue across the field, and he's like going up the field, and Jameis wants him to continue over, so Jameis throws it out here. He's going this way, and then he tries to react to it, and it's too late. Ball's already out here, and he's diving, trying to catch it. They were just out of sync. You could tell that he hadn't played in quite some time. But, again, they'll eventually get Deontay Harris back. They'll eventually get Michael Thomas back, and all of a sudden that room won't seem as bad and as talent devoid as it does now. But right now, as it stands, if you've got Kevin White as your second receiver, or, I don't know. I mean, let's see. Kevin White had quite a few targets tonight. I'd guess that Traquan Smith had the second most targets. Taking Kamara out of the picture, I think it would go Callaway, Smith, and then Kevin White. But let's just take a look to see. Callaway had 7. Smith had 3. White had 2, and Kenny Stills. I forgot about Kenny Stills. So no, they're not that bad. Kenny Stills is a quality NFL wide receiver. They got some stuff. They're just banged up right now. I'm pretty sure we could go down the list of teams in the league, and we could find 1 or 2 who have even worse situations than that of the Saints right now. Trying to think off the top of my head who's got a really lackluster. The Lions receivers stink. Khalif Raymond had himself a ball game this week against the Rams. I like Khalif Raymond a lot, but all they really have is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he's a rookie. I don't love Quintez Cephas or any of those other guys. I think the Lions have the worst, group in football right now. And you probably could find 1 or 2 other teams where you're like, not really feeling what you got going on there. I talked about the 49ers the other night. They got Deebo Samuel, and I guess that gives you a chance when you got a guy like Deebo. But after Deebo Samuel, Trent Sherfield? What are we talking about here, man? Yeah. So there's some teams out there. I don't know. Reese says, facing our old buddy on Sunday, Lou, Jameis returns to Tampa. Gonna bust his ass. Been waiting to have an opportunity to get him back for screwing me up like he did. Yeah, that one should be fun. That one should be fun. That'll be an interesting one, to say the least. And I expect you guys to kick their ass, too. Reese says, this was probably the worst week of NFL thus far. Rather uneventful. Facts. 100% facts. Is Deshaun Watson going to be traded before the deadline, Lou? I'm going to talk about that on my podcast tomorrow. That's going to be one of the topics of discussion tomorrow. Captain Spartan says, Seahawks definitely thinking twice now about moving on from Wilson. They knew better. It's one thing to talk about that. It's another thing to understand. They're not dummies. Snyder and Carroll know better. They know that they're where they are in the NFL pantheon of general managers and head coaches because of Russell Wilson. It's not the other way around. He's not where he is because of those two. They are where they are because of him. Pete Carroll was this, excellent college coach that came to the NFL for a second chance because his first go-round didn't go as planned with the Jets and Patriots. And so he wanted redemption in the NFL, wanted to prove that he could do it in the NFL. And up until Russell Wilson got there, he hadn't proven a damn thing. So they know. They have to know that Russell Wilson is the reason that they're viewed the way that they are in the league. And they're not dummies. They understand. Reese says, Todd Bowles is going to be a head coach next year. That makes me sad. Oh, you think? I don't think Todd Bowles is getting another job. Not anywhere other than Tampa Bay. I think Todd Bowles is the coach in waiting in Tampa. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. Todd Bowles is very, very impressive. I wanted to hire Todd Bowles in Washington as a head coach. But we'll see. My defensive retread argument states that guys like Todd Bowles, they're not in vogue right now. Not to say that defensive retread coaches will never get opportunities in this league. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying right now, with the way the league is going, those guys aren't in vogue. As a matter of fact, defensive coaches in general aren't in vogue. If there are 7 coaching vacancies next year, and this has been the going rate, about 7 for the last 3 years or so. That's about on average. Of the 7 vacancies, 5 or 6 are going to be filled with offensive-minded guys. One might be filled. If it's 5, then one might be filled with a special teams guy, with a guy with a special teams background. Like, I don't even know what the hell David Culley's title was. I think he's more of an offensive guy, but I couldn't tell you what the hell he is, to be honest with you. Joe Judge has a special teams background. That's his thing. He's coached different positions, but he's at his core, he's a special teams guy. So sort of like John Harbaugh. But 5 out of the 7 will be offensive guys. One might be a special teams and one might be a defensive guy. It's not often that you get 3 or 4 defensive guys. That's not the way the league is going. You get one a year. I think Vic Fangio was, the one defensive guy a few years back. He might have got hired along with Flores. I think they got hired at the same time. But it's rare to get multiple defensive guys because they don't work, it seems like. They all seem to crash and burn. When's the last defensive guy to get a job and win big in this league? It just doesn't happen. Recently, I'm talking about. Just doesn't happen. It's normally the offensive guys. And the new move is to get a young quarterback and marry him with a young offensive mind, like Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, like Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. Like, now here's a defensive guy that is doing some big things in Los Angeles with the Chargers, and that's Brandon Staley. Now he's an exception to the rule because he was so good with the Rams and he's young. And Sean McVay probably gave him the biggest of endorsements. Like, this guy, and I remember McVay saying, like, Staley's so good. Like, we hate to lose him. Like, he's so good. I want people to stop talking about him because he's going to end up getting a job if people don't stop talking about him. He's that good. And he got a job. But that's because he's like a defensive savant. And he's young. He's not a retread. If you get a defensive coach, it's a guy that's young and never been a coach before, like Flores, like Salah, like Staley. Like, those are the guys that are going to get jobs. You're not seeing the defensive retreads get a job. So we'll see. Todd Bowles might be, one of those guys on the short list of defensive retread coaches that may be able to get another opportunity, but I don't see Bowles. If I'm Todd Bowles, honestly, he's the highest paid coordinator in football right now. I'm not going anywhere unless this is the best. He's in a position where he didn't have to do anything. Really, he doesn't. Because I think he's the next coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's either him or Leftwich. I think it's more so Bowles than Leftwich. But he's in a position he didn't have to take a job if he doesn't want to. He's making good money. He's in a really good spot. And I really feel like unless it's a job where you feel like you're set up for success, I wouldn't take it. To hell with it. He was set up for failure with the Jets, but he had to take it. I mean, you're not getting many opportunities if you're Todd Bowles. So you got to take the job. He doesn't have to do that anymore. Charles Hardy says, if I were Washington football team GM, which QB are you taking? Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, or Malik Willis, and why? I don't know who I would take. I don't know enough about any of those quarterbacks. I only know them in passing. I've watched a lot of Matt Corral and enough of Kenny Pickett to have an opinion, but I haven't watched enough film to be able to say this is why I would or wouldn't take this guy. And I haven't watched nearly enough of Malik Willis. I really can't tell you much of anything about him other than he plays at Liberty. So can't really talk to you about any of these guys at great depth because I need to watch film. Especially the quarterback position. There's so much nuance to what goes on at that particular position that I stay away from it until I've done the work. So I couldn't tell you. Red Wings 0-1. Can we pin any of the blame on the rain, or was this just 60 minutes of pure ineptitude? Oh, yeah, you could put some of that on the rain for sure. I mean, I don't think either one of these teams are all that great to begin with, but absolutely, the rain definitely changes a lot. Changes the way you call a game, changes the way things are executed, changes a lot. A lot. So, yes, the blame could definitely be placed on the rain. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Red Wing 01 says, at least the defenses look good. Again, Seattle is not a good defensive team, or at least they haven't been. The last 2 weeks they actually have, but again, I think some of that was, the opposition, and some of it was the weather. So I'm hesitant to give Seattle any credit. The Saints are a good defensive team. So Reese says, do you think we'll see any deals before the deadline, i.e. Marlon Mack or Deshaun Watson? We'll talk about that tomorrow on the podcast. Again, Captain Spartan 04 says, do we slightly not give credit to Pete Carroll's coaching career, one of the few coaches that has won a Natty and a Super Bowl? No, you can't discount and discredit what he's done, even though people try to do that in the college ranks with USC because of, some of the scandals that went on down at SC. I think he was a hell of a college coach, and you can see his personality lends itself to him being a rah-rah guy that would really go over well with young 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old impressionable young men. So you can see that he's got that kind of college spirit in him. And then, he's been in the NFL before. He cut his teeth and his chops in the NFL. So, he had pedigree before he went to the college ranks to get his swag back. And then he came back a different guy and had some success. He got lucky. But is it luck? I mean, they were the ones that had the foresight to draft Russell Wilson and then make him the day one starter after giving a contract to Matt Flynn. They had the foresight to say, you know what? We don't need to go down the Matt Flynn road. This is our guy right here, Russell Wilson. And they never looked back after that. So you got to give him and John Schneider credit for that. And I do think he's a good coach. I think that he would be in a different light had he not thrown that pass from the 1 yard line. Had they just run it and won 2 consecutive Super Bowls, he'd be viewed in a much different light than what he's viewed in right now. But still think he's a hell of a coach. J Can-Man 99 writes, Geno Smith equals losing. I can get with that. I think that equation is pretty solid. Demario Davis and Bobby Wagner are 2 middle linebackers that we've just used to seeing that they how good they are. All this talk last night about Werner and Leonard, let's not forget about the OGs. Demario Davis and Bobby Wagner are still playing at a very high level. I agree with that. But Warner and Leonard they're the new school, And in today's NFL, you need new school linebackers, dudes that can flat out run. Like Wagner looks like a throwback. And again, Wagner can run. He's still 100 and whatever tackles a year, it seems like. Demario Davis is another dude that just flat out makes plays. He's always around the ball, smart, heady player. But Warner and Leonard they're different breeds. They look like they're built like safeties. They run like corners, and they hit like linebackers. And that's today's NFL, Demario Davis and Bobby Wagner look like linebackers. Warner and Leonard look like safeties, play like linebackers. Not, and again, not to, dismiss Demario Davis and Bobby Wagner, but if you ask most people who are the best middle linebackers, inside linebackers in the league, they probably name one of those 2 guys first, Leonard or Warner. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'd probably name one of them as well. But again, those 4 guys, Demario Davis, Bobby Wagner, Fred Warner, Darius Leonard, are probably in the top 5 of the best inside linebackers in football. So, I mean, you're splitting hairs. When you talk about these guys, the distance between them isn't that great. So they're all really good. Captain Spartan 04 writes, Saints may not be legit, but they do know how to reload and get depth. That GM low-key underrated. I mean, you say what you want about Mickey Loomis and the Saints organization. They had Bounty Gate and all of that stuff. And, you know, they quietly and look, their cap situation has been a mess for years, but they quietly go about it the right way via the draft. Like they figure out what guys fit. And that's why I said it's so important to know who you are as a football team and what kind of players you're looking for and what guys fit your DNA profile. When you don't know and you're just grasping for straws, or we need a guy at this position, so you just pick a random Joe Schmo, and you don't have an identity, that generally catches up with you in the long haul. But when you know who you are and what kind of players fit what you want to do, you're able to get guys that maybe doesn't fit on, 31 other teams, but they fit your team. And they find a way to do that really well. Like, I remember when Trey Hendrickson came out of FAU, I'm like, he's a hustle, try hard white guy. That's cool. He looks like a great value version of Ryan Kerrigan. This probably won't end well for them. I was wrong. He was really good. I remember, them getting Davenport. And I'm thinking, you think you reached on this one, man. Don't really think he's going to be. And he hasn't been a sack master or anything like that, but he's just an all-around quality player when he's healthy. Stops the run, can do a little something getting after the quarterback. And now it's a first-round pick, so he's supposed to be good. But, that the 2017 draft, I believe, with Lattimore and the tackle Ryan Ramczyk and Marcus Williams and Alex Anzalone and all of those guys that they drafted, even though Anzalone didn't turn out to be all that great for them. They hit on like 5 or 6 dudes that were like core pieces to their football team. And that's what Mickey Loomis does. It's not always great. Every draft isn't great for the Saints. But they knew Alvin Kamara fit what they wanted to do. They traded up and got him. That was a steal. Michael Thomas was a second-round wide receiver. Nobody was really paying attention to. That was the draft with Josh Doxson and Will Fuller going in the first round. And here's Michael Thomas, up until the last 2 years, not even close, outshining the rest of that draft class. It's guys like that in the second and the third round that they continuously find that continues to give them an opportunity to, as you say, retool and reload. So Captain Spartan says, I missed the first quarter. Did Marshawn Lynch have anything good to say on the Manning broadcast? I think I caught all of the Tom Brady second quarter. Marshawn was lit. He was Litsky. I tweeted it out on my Twitter that Marshawn is lit. Like they asked him, Eli said, so I was watching your interview with Peyton on Peyton's Place, and you said that you used to take a shot of, I think he said Henny. I'm not sure what it was exactly. I think it was a shot of Henny before every game. He said, did you take any shots before you came on the show with us? And he said, yeah, I took 3. He said, 1 for me, 1 for little bro, and 1 for big bro. So he was, and I believe him, he was lit. He was cussing and shit. It was funny. It was funny. The first time he said shit, I'm like, ooh, he said shit. And then he said it again, right? And nobody had the balls to tell Marshawn, like they could have told him after the first shit, hey, Marshawn, look, it's a family program. PG, it's owned by Disney. If you could try to keep it PG-13, that'd be great. Treat this like a Uber Eats commercial, right? He came back and he did it again. He did it again. Clearly no one wanted to say anything to Marshawn about what he could or couldn't say. And that's why I love this this Manning show because you just don't know what the hell you're gonna get. And so later on in the show, when Drew Brees is up there, Manning is like, well, he says, Jameis Winston just said on the sideline, he said, I effed up. He said, I'm not going to say the word because I'm not going to be like Marshawn and Eli. I'm going to keep it PG-13. And we remember Eli with the two birds on national television like a month ago. So he's like, so that was funny. Drew Brees was weak. I was weak. And Eli was, he, had a little giggle. He wasn't weak, but Drew was weak and I was weak. And so I'm glad somebody caught that Marshawn was out here wilding because he was. It was funny, though. Marshawn was just chilling. He was just chilling. Anyway, I digress. And it was funny because then Eli had some technical difficulties when Marshawn was up there. And so they didn't have him on the screen for a little while. And Peyton made a joke that, Eli went to have a shot. He'll be back in a little bit. And then when Eli finally got his monitor working and everything situated, they got him back on the screen. And Marshawn said, hey, did you go have a shot? He said, yeah, I went and had a shot. He said, and Marshawn said, did you have one for me? He's like, yeah, I had one for you. I had one for me, and I had one for Big Bro. Yeah, so it was funny, man. Like I said, it was good to have those dudes back. Without them tonight, I don't know if we're able to get through this game, to be honest with you. I think I got a super chat. And I do. And it's from Trucker Mark USA. Congratulations on your Atlanta Braves. Thank you for the super chat, Trucker Mark USA. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you. Again, I'm not really looking to be super excited. We're in the World Series. I'm happy about it, but the job is not done. Nobody ever remembers second place. So there's still work to be done. And unless you go all the way and win it, you're just the first loser. And nobody wants to be that. So I'm happy we made it, but now we got to finish the job. All right, read that one. Storm says, are we actually going to see any big action around the trade deadline this year? Some are hyping the deadline up, but NFL teams never seem to really use it to sell or buy. I think this year might be a little bit different, and I think we've already seen a little bit of that already, but we'll talk more about it again tomorrow on the pod. Captain Spartan says, we may never look forward, but Seattle on primetime always has a decent finish. It usually does. I don't think Seattle, unless they're playing when they were at their peak, if they caught a garbage team on a Monday night or a Sunday, or they could destroy them. That stadium could just engulf a team that wasn't ready. But for the most part, it's always a good finish. You're right. And we've had some of the craziest things. What happens in Seattle stays in Seattle type things. Obviously, the Hail Mary. We had the batted ball out of the back of the end zone against Detroit. They had a field goal snafu with the Bills when Rex Ryan was there. Like, just some of the craziest things happened in Seattle. But yeah, it's usually a good finish, like you said. See, I think we're good now. I think we can get out of here. We hit our hour mark. I don't really see any comments here. All right, let's get out of here. So, Saints get the win 13-10. Like I said, Not overly impressed with either one of these teams. This was a very, very impacted game by weather, as one could expect. The Saints are a good defensive team, though, so I'm not shocked at what they were able to do tonight. Really disappointed in Seattle's lack of creativity, and really just you didn't need to be super innovative tonight. Really, what you needed to do was you needed to get the ball in the hands of playmakers. Like Alex Collins isn't your best player, and I get it. It's a wet night. You got Geno Smith at quarterback, so you want to minimize the opportunities for mistakes to happen. But just get it to 14, get it to DK, get it to Tyler Lockett, get it to the guys that make plays for you. And they didn't do that tonight. That's unfortunate because maybe the outcome could have been different. Look, I'm not complaining. I picked the Saints to win the game. I needed this one badly. So it was not a great week for me picking games. So I needed this one. I could have salvaged the week if San Francisco's stinking ass would have won last night, but they didn't. So I needed this one just to be able to save face. That said, Saints are 4-2, man. It's a quiet 4-2. No one's really talking about them being 4-2, but they're 4-2. It hasn't been pretty, that's for sure, but nobody really gives a shit about how it looks. The aesthetics of the situation really doesn't move the needle at all in this league. It's just getting the tally in the left-hand column, and they've got 4 of them right now. And in a conference where either you got 5 or 6 or 7, or you got 2 or 3, or 1 or none, they got 4. So they're right there in the thick of things, are the New Orleans Saints. And that's a good win on the road. We can sit here and talk shit about it all we want. That's a good win on the road because Seattle's not an easy place to play. And I get it. Geno Smith is that quarterback. Still got to go out there and get the dub. And they did. As for the Seahawks, you're now 2-5. And this is a must win against Jacksonville. I don't really care who's at quarterback. Obviously, it's going to be Geno Smith. This is a must win. You got to find a way to beat the Jaguars. They're coming off of a bye week. They got a little bit of confidence now. You're going to have to take it to them early. If you come out and you're bullshitting around and we look up and we're halfway through the third or into the fourth and the score is 17-13, you're up or you're down, either way, and they're hanging around, they're going to try and steal that game. They're going to think to themselves, why not? Why can't we make it 2 in a row? You got to jump on these boys early. Get out to a 10 to 14 point lead, and they'll probably crumble. But if you let them hang around, if they jump on you early, you could be in some trouble. You can't afford to fall to 2-6. Because even if you fall to 2-6, similar situation Washington's in right now, you can't afford to fall to 2-6 and then hit your bye week. And I think Seattle and Washington have the same exact bye week. It's week 8. It's a week 9 bye. You come off the bye in week 10, and you'll have your quarterback back in Russell Wilson. And Washington will have a bunch of guys back more likely than not after their bye week. But you got to win this game before the bye. Washington has Denver, and Seattle has Jacksonville. Got to find a way to win that game. If you don't get to 3-5, and you drop to 2-6, what you're effective, because I think the winner of the wild card in the NFC, I think it's going to be a couple of 9-win teams. That's what I think it ultimately boils down to is you might sneak an 8-win team into the back door at 7, but I think it's going to be 2 9-win teams. I really do. You're going to have the loser of the NFC West all the way up there with like 11, 12 wins, and then the next 2 seeds are like 9-win teams. You're effectively telling Russell Wilson, okay, dude, you got to win 8 out of your 5. You got to win 7 out of your final 9 down the stretch. Good luck. And, oh, yeah, you got to play Arizona twice, and you still got the Rams once. Good luck. Ding! I don't see it happening. So don't put yourself in that position. Beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it then gives you a bit of room and a margin for error. Just a slight margin, but at least it's something. We'll see what happens. Tough loss your kicker really let you down. Myers let you down tonight. 2 misses. Al Woods with some back-breaking penalties. But you can't miss those kicks if you're Jason Myers. I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, how impactful kickers can really, truly be. He killed them tonight. They win this game if he makes those 2 kicks. Don't think the Saints are going to score 17 or 20 points in this game. He missed 2 kicks. They lose by 3. You do the math. It's not hard. Anyway, I digress. Let's get out of here. I got one more super chat that will take us home from Captain Spartan 04. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. I think you doubled up. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. Might have just read your name a bunch of times. I don't think you doubled up. But either way, my guy Captain Spartan 04 writes, can I get a heavens to Megatron just because? Heavens to Megatron. Haven't done that in a while. I miss doing that. Yeah. Heavens to Megatron. I'll just do it twice because I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to do it again. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. Well, I can say this with 1,000% certainty. Week 8's primetime games will be light years better. The matchups all across the board much better. You start the week off with 7-0 Arizona hosting 6-1 Green Bay. Now, the Packers are compromised. Their defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, going to miss the game with COVID. And Devontae Adams has been placed on the COVID list. He may be able to get off if he's got a couple of negatives before then. But right now, he looks like he could miss the game. That is huge right now. But that's going to be a hell of a matchup. Sunday night, Cowboys, Vikings coming off the bye. Both teams coming off the bye week. That's going to be a great game. And then Monday night, Chiefs hosting the Giants. 2 teams that are struggling. Who the hell knows? Mahomes passed his concussion test yesterday by evidence of the fact that he stayed on the sidelines. Nobody has a concussion and stays on the sidelines and watches the rest of the game. So he's clear to play on Monday, but they looked bad, man. They looked horrible. And the Giants looked good. I'm just saying next week is going to be much better than this week. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.